Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you to allowing us to be here. We have, I think, one of the top hot topics of, I would say, this century to talk about is AI, especially AI, how AI works with UX research and UX designers, because we are standing really on a crossroads there because and on the front edge of the AI. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Pavel Bukengolts. I am founder of UX Design Lab. I specialize and my company specialize in UX consulting and UX training. I specifically passionate about AI. I teach at the college UX and AI, and there's every single day my students worry about this topic and asking those questions. So I'm joined by very great panelists today, Max Reed and Max Yurko and Matt Reed. So guys, if you can introduce yourself, Max, let's start with you.
Yes, thank you, Pablo. My name is Max. I am a delivery director in a company called Trinetics. So Trinetics is a digital consulting company. We do digital consulting and software development already 13 years on the market with 100 plus people and offices in US, Argentina, and Europe. Services like AI, Gen AI, of course, and enterprise design. We have one of the like UX, UI, and research. We have one of the largest design teams in Europe and still follow design first approach. So yeah, my role is delivery director in mobile center of excellence. So I like create both developers and designers and also a product design delivery. So as we work mostly with enterprise client, but also with startups. So product design delivery is more the branch for the startups that I'm creating. And yeah, my background is like started as a designer 15 years ago. I became then 12 years ago, joined Trinetics, became a lead designer, then UX architect. And we call like full stack designers UX architects, like researcher, strategist, BSA, and engineer, and designer in all in one place. And then became lead of the mobile and product design teams, and now leading mobile COE here. Also passionate about AI. We use a lot of different AI methodologies currently, and yeah, I'll be happy to share what exactly.
Thank you, Max. Matt?
Thank you. Thanks, Pavel. And yeah, I'm Matt Reed. I'm out of Nashville, Tennessee. Not sure if anybody else is around here, but I work for Red Pepper. We're a full service strategic agency that works with an array of different clients, generally campaign based, but we get into product design and a few other realms. But of course, AI, I try to dabble in it as often as possible, get my hands dirty, and just to figure out the nuts and bolts of this stuff. Because just like you all and everybody else, we're trying to figure it out. My background is in development and design, and then pretty much anything tech I can get my hands on that we can integrate into our creative process during the work for clients is what I try to advocate for. So excited to share what we have learned thus far. So thanks for having us.
All right. Thank you, guys. So today we're going to explore some AI roles and what's happening in this space. So if you will remember anything from today, because I suspect we're going to have pretty good conversation, and Matt and Max will share some very fascinating stuff. Honestly, I can't wait to see it myself. But if you can take three things from today's conversation. So first of it is AI is revolution. It's new, it's here to stay, and it helps us in shaping new methodologies, reshaping old methodologies, and making our process more faster and efficient. That's a fact. Next, AI is so powerful, but it cannot replace us humans because we do have empathy, we have creativity, we have intuition. AI so far doesn't have it. So Our jobs will be there to stay for sure. And finally, we'll talk about democratization of UX. It opens door for more people to participate, but it's also challenging us to maintain quality and ethical standards. So with all this being said, I want to start setting up some context. And let's start with very short history lesson. So how AI actually started. Back in 1950s, so it's almost 100 years ago, Alan Turing, who's called father of computer science, proposed that machines can simulate human intelligence. That was just an idea back then, but in 1956, few fellows decided to discuss this topic, and they call it the Dartmouth workshop. So they were joined by several more very, very smart people. There's a picture you can see on a slide. And
Pavel, can you share your slides? I don't.
oh, they go.
Oh, no, it's my bad. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So, so in 1956, so in 2 years, it's going to be what, 70 years? The term of artificial intelligence was officially born. If we'll fast forward to today, we have expert systems that was started back in 70s. It's basically when machines were programmed to mimic decision making. In 90s, brought us machine learning and enabling system to analyze data and learn without being explicitly programmed. And now we in the era of deep learning, where neural networks allow machines to perform incredibly complex stuff. So that's where we are today. We in the era of machine learning and deep learning. But how can we differentiate between different types of AI? So there's a different taxonomies. How can we do it? Let's talk about AI by cognitive ability. So the simplest type is reactive AI. What is it? You've seen it. You're watching Netflix, you're watching Paramount, or whatever your streaming application of choice. It gives you predictions. So if you think about reactive machines, this is the simplest AI that can be. It's reactive. It basically provides you reactive on your actions. Then after that, we started in a limited memory AI. This is what we have now, where we have the AI can start making predictions and learn on the past experiences. Think about ChatGPT, think about self-driving cars, think about all generative models. It can learn on what happened before, create something new, and predict what will happen in the future. So the next thing that we're waiting to happen is theory of mind AI. It represents more advanced stage of AI that we have now, but what it could happen that it will start reading our, understanding our emotions, intentions, and motivations. AI currently cannot do that. So that is about to happen, and hopefully it will happen. Well, hopefully, from my perspective of a researcher, it will happen soon. And the last one that known for us, it's self-aware AI. It doesn't happen yet, but AI that will be self-aware and will have machine with conscience. So from all of these, the tools that powering our analytics and research, right now it's just a reactive and limited memory AI. But where we are now, we are in a phase when we know what is happening, but we don't know what will happen tomorrow. It's already reshaping our workflows it's streamlining our processes. But I don't think we can say with any distinguished knowledge that what will happen 2 days from now, what will happen 2 weeks from now, or a year from now. AI helps us to be efficient, but it lacks emotional intelligence and creativity. So we need to, our job right now to shape it and make sure that we create right balance between AI capabilities but preserving that human touch. AI introducing very smart data-driven research methodologies. So I try to put everything that at least known to me and categorize it by UX process, starting with a strategy, research, ideation, design, and delivery. As you can see, we have AI everywhere on each step. Let's say you want to conduct a research on how people approach shopping. You do hundreds of interviews. AI can help you with interviews. AI can help you review all those transcripts. AI can step in the process and recognize patterns, and then it can cluster mental models and create visualizations for your research. But it will not replace you as the person who create hypotheses for this research. It will not replace you as the person who will set up a direction where this research will go. Another example, AI can help you to work with repetitive tasks. As one use case we have at UX Design Lab, we incorporated AI into every step of the project in the PLC. And what we saw, it's we could deliver this project 60% faster than the similar project previously without any AI. AI could help us there from a contractual process, review our contract, make sure everything is there, with project management, with delivering wireframes, and surprise, surprise, writing a code and make sure this code is working. So we were honestly very impressed and a little bit scared how that thing worked. And the last thing about the entire process, AI can generate design concepts, giving designers starting point to build on, but it's still our job to create a vision and use it as an assistant, collaborative assistant within this process. So to summarize all of this, AI can reshape methodologies and make it more efficient. It enables us to find deeper data-driven insight that shapes more efficient user experiences. It reduces the time we spend on manual work, and we can deliver more accurate results. AI enhances the technical side of the design, but its role of the UX professional, us, to ensure that design stay empathetic, ethical, and it still aligns with the values and what we're trying to deliver. Finally, let's talk about democratization of UX. AI tools makes UX more accessible for people outside of traditional design roles. And I know it's scary because everyone can build the wireframes in Figma without actually Figma knowledge. Everyone can write the questions for the user research without knowledge how to write those questions. But while it's great to expanding the field and empowering more people to contribute, it also creates challenges because people who using just AI, they cannot understand and they don't know the foundations that we as a professionals in the field know. So it's becoming critical for us. And this is going to be our role to have those safeguards to maintain quality, accessibility, and ethical standards for anything that happens. I will give you one example that recently came up with one of my students. We were working with the student on a case study, and the student showed me the UX process. And for some reason, UX process was started with UX research, which really was not correct back in, let's say, 5-6 years ago. So when we start digging deeper, and I honestly just went to Google and Googled UX research process, and yeah, top results show the UX, any UX design process started with research, not with the strategy. And that's really troubled me because UX design starts with a strategy. Before you do research, you need to know who you interview and people, what's your budget, so on and so forth. You guys know all these jobs. But AI-driven content already started to replace things that we know and things that is happening. So our job is to lead, educate, and steward best practices, making sure that democratization is not about replacing designers, but extending the reach and impact of best practices for design. And with all this being said, before we go to the panel presentation, can we do some really quick quiz? Thank you. All right, we have some.
This is interesting, yeah.
Yeah, we have some good questions, answers coming up. Interesting. By automating repetitive time and having efficiency. Yeah, well, that is correct. And I'm glad you guys answered that this way, because 94% of you saying, because it is just a tool, nothing more than a tool.
I'm gonna give you 5 more seconds to answer the poll, but I think we have a very clear trend here.
Yep, I think we have a winner here. Okay. All right, is the poll done, right? So thank you for answering. Thank you for being active. I think we go to our most expected thing is to panel discussion. So we'll start with Matt. Matt, I know you have some pretty interesting stuff going on at Red Pepper. It's you guys built something that I could not think about before, but you build interactive personas. So people can look at them and not just use AI personas, just look at the personas, but interact with them. So my first question is how those personas were created and why Red Pepper actually created those personas.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and for us, doing a lot of campaign work, we generally set up our personas and they're static. We'll define, things about, their traits and behaviors and values, just all the things to kind of get us in the mindset of who we're marketing to. And plus we'll use that to check back too. And like I said, those are static documents. Usually they end up in a PowerPoint somewhere or a document, and sometimes get forgotten. So the natural progression of that was, what if we could kind of keep those around at all times and use them to get feedback, at any point during the process, and even use them to store and archive knowledge about things that they've interacted with in the past. So, when LLMs came on the scene, it was a natural move over to just, hey, let's see if we can get them to impersonate a persona and make them, feel like you're talking to someone that can give you insight into the problems you're trying to solve. So it was just a natural progression to make them interactive. One thing we noticed when we work with clients, and everyone has this problem, is we all are in our own little bubbles, and and clients sometimes, depending on organization size, they can even have conflict inside their own design teams as to what's the right way to progress. And unless you have something objective to point back to kind of break that tension, it's kind of more of a subjective thing. So yeah, and then we also use our personas, just kind of like narrow down ideas when we ideate, so that if we go into 100 ideas, we can at least chop down 50% of those, checking back to our personas. So
that is cool. But how can you ensure those AI personas actually reflect real users' behaviors? It's not just an algorithms that AI created.
Yeah, well, this has been fascinating because in order to get the response that you would get from a real human, you have to clone a real human all the way down to all their life experiences and their preferences and things that may have changed the way they think about something that weights really heavily on their day-to-day thought process. And you'd have to model that. So the best we can do is kind of, get within the ballpark. And, if we can get to be 80% within the ballpark of what, our persona represents of a real human, that's to me, that's a pretty good accomplishment. And so, it's just this balancing act between giving your personas just enough information, because they will go off and they'll generalize based on the LLM, and they'll go down rabbit holes that you did not instruct them to go down based on just what the average of those weights in the LLM have told it to do. And so then the other side of that is you don't want them to be too biased. So it's this balancing act we're learning.
But the bias, I think this is going to be one of the most important things that we'll have to overcome in future, because the AI personas built on the data, and this data created by humans who could be biased. It's not real people. So I think this is something that we'll have to think about in the future, how those things will work. But let me ask you a question. So for you and your clients at Red Pepper, what are the biggest advantages and challenges using those personas?
Yeah, well, I think off the top, like, it's speed, just because, since they're there 24 hours a day, we don't have to call somebody up or schedule anything in order to get real feedback. And then also, since, it's in the virtual realm, you can programmatically access them, and you can do things on a scale, behind the scenes. You can talk to 1,000 personas versus, just one. You can aggregate that data across, do averages. I think the breadth of information you can get from them, and then the speed at which you can do that, kind of offsets the cloning of a human part to an extent. But you just have, the risk is them being too, oversimplified or superficial, I guess.
Yeah, I remember when me and my teams were setting up those personas, like for developers, we printed big posters, and every time we talk, we refer to those personas by name. Now I imagine we could put probably just a big screen and say, well, if you have a question for me, just ask that person right there in the screen. They will answer you.
Yeah.
But can we trust them? Can we trust those personas? Can those personas actually pick up those biases? And can they, what the main thing is the trust right now.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing, is it's just, you you have the ability to surface things that you weren't aware of. But I think I even saw this in the comments. It was just like, how do you put in guardrails and safeguards to make sure it's not too biased in one way or another? And honestly, that is something that I think a lot of people are trying to figure out right now. You know, and it is a very trial and error intensive process, because you just really have to try these things out, and it just takes time to kind of dial in, you know, if they actually are telling you the truth or if they're making it up.
Yeah, that's I think that would be a challenge. And let me ask Max something. So Max, like, how do you see the roles of UX designer with all those AI technologies, and especially in areas like UX research, UX personas, testing?
Well, I believe we already got an answer based on the survey we had, right? In general, it's all about enhancing the efficiency, of course, and automating daily routine, right? So crafting scripts, analyzing huge data sets of qualitative and quantitative data, it's all in the past. I believe UX designer becomes the curator and interpreter of the AI insights, right? So writing prompts, it's pretty obvious, but it's probably the most important thing currently. And like simple things like setting the right context, or just throw the whole requirements document, so it hits it and analyzes. Or just write this context by yourself and ask the right question. It's the main thing. I believe the prompt engineering and the interpretation, of course. So make sure that insights that, let's say, AI, let's say ChatGPT generates, he's glitching when you're just, it hits too much. The data wouldn't be that relevant. So you need to make sure that data, that the insights still relative to business context, and then transform answers to business language. So number one is like creation and interpretation, probably the evolution of it. And then collaboration is most important, as it was, because the quality of the data that will be eaten by the AI matters. Of course, you can ask like, okay, I have a request for like pretty standard healthcare app. So you will receive pretty standard results in this case, and pretty average answers from it, and pretty average prototype. So you need to collaborate more, get as much insights as possible, and make it deliver it to the AI in the right way. Yeah, and I have a few things that guys from the design department, they took part in a survey AI related. I'll try to find relevant insights from there and also share it with you. So based on the potential evolution of UI designer with AI technologies, what do we have here? Okay, we can go like from the bad things to good things. So what AI tends to do poorly in UX, so which is, we still have a room in the future for it. Simulating the realistic user behavior in prototyping. Right, guys still try to test their prototypes with AI. It didn't went pretty well, but I know that our design leads are super happy when they test when they give to AI the test tasks, all right, and it showed like the common mistakes, and it could be they are not spending hours analyzing all the prototypes that are sent to us. Yeah.
Okay. Cool, thank you. But you mentioned ChatGPT. What any other tools you guys using? Do you have anything besides ChatGPT? Because ChatGPT, that's used by everyone.
Of course. Well, it's still the simplest entrance point, right? You can go with just a free version, and the results will be pretty cool still. Anyway, but the tool set that we have, let's see, Otter AI, It's pretty cool for transcription and summarization of the meeting. So again, that's for getting the pretty clear insights from the stakeholders interview and then make it eaten by the AI. Midjourney for making the presentation when it's all crafted and we use it in a PPT format and present it to the clients. Of course, it should be pretty attractive. Some guys still like it to go all the way. They use Excel AI add-ons when they just analyze the data in Excel spreadsheet. And some folks like to prototype real quick with tools like Wizard, right? So you just enter the concept, a few phrases there, or it could be the whole context generated by AI. So you use both AI tools in this case, and it will create a pretty quick prototype on the go. It's pretty cool when you present it to the client and he sets the context and you just type it real quick and then present the prototype and you can validate it on the go, and you just started talking and it's pretty amazing. What else? Yeah, looks like that's the main guys. Of course, there are like assistants in most of tools we use. Still, they are not highly recommended by designers, like Mira assistants, and we use Figma Jam and AI. That's also they added to Figma, but yeah, it's not that cool.
Thanks. And so let me ask you and Matt, and just one question. I'll start with Matt to give you some breather. So Matt, what do you think? What role UX researchers will play in the future with all this AI coming up? Just one sentence, really quick. Is there anything?
Yeah, it's funny because I think taste is a thing. I think unique human's taste will be the differentiator, and how they use the tools will be different by everybody. But I think that filter of their taste will be the most important part.
Good answer, Max. What about you? What is the future for UX research?
I'm in Las Vegas now, and it's AWS conference. They all talk about Gen AI. So for the future, most likely, there is a pretty high possibility that UI of the future will be automatically generated and personalized every time. So potentially, for the future, maybe UX researcher would be like a power plant station operator. You see the red light, you just, okay, something is happening wrong because in this new branch just generated, user didn't get what he wanted, and then you have a list of actions that should be potentially taken. You pick the right one, so that's a human factor that you have, and yeah, maybe that's the future.
Yeah, I think you're both right. It is a future. We need to look what's happening. But now what I want to do, I know Matt has actually to show something, those personas, how they work. So maybe you can start sharing, Matt. You're muted.
Sorry about that. So this is just a tool we've been kind of putting together internally to kind of test out some of these concepts we've been discussing. And like I said, we want to kind of make these a little bit more interactive and more somewhat human-like, but not too much, obviously. And so with these personas here, this would be, for example, if we were doing, a theoretical job with greenies where they were, trying to come up with like a new product, we could set up this panel, and then behind each panel persona, you could specify, their name, their nickname, a little bit of bio, instructions. You can give them like knowledge or not. And there are different levels depending on how much you put into here. This will be what the personas can reference, and it will be how they act. It will be their own, unique biases to an extent, and then how they think about the world, how even they speak. You could tell that she loves UT football, so she may work that into conversation somehow. That's not a practical thing. That's just to show you that you can kind of control these things in very interesting and novel ways. And then knowledge base. I think somebody had mentioned in the chat, you know, asking about like what backs these up, because right now, yeah, they're backed up by, you know, an LLM, but you know that's made up data in a way. It's invented at best, hallucinated at worst. And so being able to actually add hard data in here is one of the things we've been working on. So like, for example, this Lucas grant, you know, we've added some information about, you know, their site usage, dog ownership by state, just hard information that they can reference and even, you know, remind us about later on. And so when we ask them, you know, their preferences on, you know, things when we chat, then, you know, they can use that data to reference and bring up and use in weighting their conversation. And so we really wanted to just be like a chat. Right now, for example, we could, you know, theoretically, if we wanted to, I did not type that this fast, I pasted it in. But if we wanted to launch a new human edible dog treat, and we were putting together 2 scripts for a video, script A, script B, you know, slight differences just in the tone and how they are, then we could ask them, you know, what they would think about it. We'll see what they say. And then they'll give us a little bit of information. It seems like, you know, both scripts have their merit. They find script A interesting, aligns with their values, you know, and then they tell you a little bit about their background as a canine nutritionist, you know, emphasis on wholesome ingredients, you know, tick that box, make sure we, you know, check back to that. And then it'll give you a little bit of information about, you know, what it thinks about the various scripts. You can follow up, you know, with maybe a more, if you wanted a more numeric rating, you could say, ask, you know, to rate it 1 to 7 with a concise reason why. And so they can give you a little bit of information. And some of this, you know, it takes a little while to get through and read, but inevitably, whenever I read them, it hits me as something that I kind of had faded off to the side of keeping in mind for, you know, the project, or, you know, it was something that I had not thought of. So one of the more interesting things is getting them to talk among themselves and let them kind of talk through problems. So if, you know, you wanted to make them discuss amongst themselves what would make this a more interesting project, you can kind of just let them start talking to each other and let them figure it out. So you can make this go on all night if you want it and see what they end up with in the morning. But it's been fascinating. It's been an interesting way to interact with these things. And then, you know, from this, we can download a summary of everything, and we can take that now. It's just a big text document of the entire conversation, and we can run that through, you know, ChatGPT at the moment to get insights and maybe a summary of the entire conversation. And then we're building that in right now to actually automate that, so it just does it all within the system. So
I think you guys hit the holy grail here. You need to create now persona of UX researcher, persona of UX designer, persona of developer, and let them do the work.
right, I know. Yeah, it'll be amazing what small teams can do here in the future, near future, for that.
It is really close. It is really cool.
And another thing that they can do too, like, you know, with the latest LLMs, you can give them an image. So if you wanted them to give feedback on, you know, like I'm uploading a little document that's got 3 different ideas in it. It'll paste that over, and then it'll let them talk about the 3 different ideas and what they think is the most interesting part visually. So yeah, it's getting to the point to where you can start to feed them things just other than text and give them images to react to, you know, and in the near future, I'm sure video too. So
yeah, that is amazing. That is really amazing.
Like I said, it's a learning curve for us and everybody, but this has been an interesting way to kind of learn about some of the edge cases and how we can kind of get through. So.
As I mentioned before, I can't even imagine what's going to happen next month, because with all those progressions, with all those inventions, it's absolutely fascinating, because you can really just get okay, you can really just get wildest ideas resolved.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. And then, like I said earlier, like we use these like in the background. We try to keep them persistent across our like creative process. So when we've got another tool where we can automate the generation of, let's just say it'll spit out 1,000 ideas around a campaign, and then we can within a few seconds just cut that down to about 100. And get rid of the other ones that are not relevant to these personas. And then we can go in and we can take those, narrow those down with ourselves as humans, and then put those in front of actual real humans to get real human feedback at that space. So I just think of the AI personas as more front end, and then humans coming into the mix towards the end.
Okay, really good. Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much. Max, I think you also have something to show. Is my screen still visible?
Yes, it's visible. Yep.
Okay, let me just move to yours.
Yeah, so it's a pretty low-level example. Again, based on the survey results, I just asked guys what the most like popular thing and what do you like the most about it, and they said how easy it became like to walk through the CASDEV exercise. And just let's quickly walk through it. Yeah, it's all ChatGPT, guys. We're from enterprise world and they have their security restrictions, so we have the enterprise version of it that allows to store pretty huge amount of data that is that should be secure. That's why a lot of ChatGPT still have that author AI that I mentioned. But yeah, let's just quickly walk through the process. Of course, we use ChatGPT for market and competitor research to ask and organize findings and spreadsheet. Then we create preliminary user personas, and I mean it's real quick explanation. It also of course includes stakeholder interview and some additional interviews. So the more information you can get, the more accurate results would be. So that's high level. So you have user personas and customer journeys and hypotheses. You generate customer journeys and hypotheses based on findings. Then you draft interview test scripts with ChatGPT, and then you recruit target users. Of course, that's non-AI task in this case. Otter AI will make the proper recording and find the right insights for you out of the recordings from the interviews. Then that's probably the part that they love the most and that took tons of like work and time, literally sitting all night. They highlight the auto transcriptions, pains, jobs, and gains, and then yeah, still extract key insights once again by ChatGPT to compare what Otter shares, and then you update personas based on the interview again in a couple of clicks. It's all about validation process. The more you validate, the better. And then identify primary painkillers and gain creators based on all the things that were highlighted, and narrow it down to jobs to be done. And then you can start the prioritization, all the brainstorming. That's kind of pretty straightforward process. But the main point that yeah, on the next slide, Pavel, can you please share? So this board was usually generated like it took weeks in some cases to get it done, to do the job, get all the pains and gains. It's just reading it and stuff, and now it takes hours. Of course, it takes some time to put it there. It takes some time to just enter the data to the ChatGPT. And interviews, that's still on you. But yeah, no more manual work. That's probably the most the important thing that the guys from design team like about the AI currently. So it's about CAS dev.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely streamlines the process. And if we have a couple more minutes, I want to share what we have at the UX Design Lab as well. So basically, we created something called a self-evaluation skill set. So it's specifically for designers. So how it works? So you have designers will answer around 100 questions, 110 questions of self-evaluating questions, and then they can be scored and weighted in another system, and then those answers will be getting to ChatGPT, custom ChatGPT model that will analyze those answers. That model can assess leadership and management style, UX strategy, research, so basically pretty much everything that we have currently in our UX arsenal. How does it work? So it gives analysis of proficiency, and it gives analysis of identified strengths and areas for expertise. We have, so if you see here on the site, we have a lot of custom instructions, a lot of data that's actually loaded in this custom GPT, where this data aligns every designer's skill, evaluated skill, to courses, books, classes that they may take. This tool can be used in design teams to understand what and how designers and researchers can grow. And of course, with getting AI there, we can also monitor our teams or yourself, how you're growing in that field. With all this being said, I think we, Kara, if we can do the feedback on this session.
Are you there?
I click launch. Can you see the poll? Or not yet? Nope, let me just take it back. Poll result has been shared in this meeting. Stop sharing. Maybe that's why. Okay.
No.
And then we can go to Q&A
Questions?
after that.
Well, while you're working on the poll, yeah, drop any questions. We've been getting tons of questions during the session, but if you haven't had a chance to ask your question yet, please do. And also don't forget to respond to the poll that's in the chat.
And while you guys answering those questions, I just want to get a little bit summary for everything we just talked about. So AI is here. AI is here to stay. We need to learn it. And our first job is to basically get literate on this. Data literacy is one of the main things. We need to shift our mindset and embrace AI as a tool. Just get it done and get to learn it and get it done. And then ethical awareness. I mean, I can't speak enough about ethics, because ethical awareness using AI is very important. AI can be biased. We can learn about this, and we need to consider implications that AI can cause. And we need to adapt. We're human beings. We're adapting. This is what we do the best from beginning of time. So that's what is happening, and that's what we'll have to do.
I think that was a great summary, or a great summation point. You know, Pavel, one of the things that that I've come up with or I've encountered in my organization. I do quite a bit of research with AI, and there are like three core problems that get to this adoption question that you're raising. There's the training question, like are people getting the training and the support and the time from their organization to really dig their heels and learn how to use this skill? Another challenge is bridging the gap between AI's potential and people's experience in terms of the results they get back from it. And that's kind of connected to training, but there's that sort of right now that sort of shallow level of insight and getting past that to something that's truly impactful, helps them be more efficient. That requires expertise that I think people are still developing. And then the third challenge is the social ground game around making it acceptable and encouraged to use AI in the UX research discipline. I think that that's still a bit of a headwind for a lot of folks. And I was just curious your thoughts on those three problems.
I think AI is, I'm trying to summarize everything you just said. AI is there, and we need to be very, very cautious on it, if it makes sense, because it is a tool. It is a tool, but it's very, very powerful tool. It's I was listening Yuval Harari other day interview, and basically, and I trust his assumptions sometimes. And when he was talking about this, nothing like this, what's happening right now, actually happened in human history. If we'll talk about end of 19th century with the Industrial Revolution, even that is not on the level what's happening now. So and for us as a designers, I think we do have to be on the front lines there, because we have something that, and I'm not trying to offend any other areas of expertise, but we have something that others don't have. We have empathy. We train to be empathetic to other people's, to other problems. We have conscious empathy, not unconscious, right? So we do have to understand this, and we have to embrace it, and we have to teach others how to do it and what to do.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And I just want to add one other point to that. One of the things we also bring to the table is a strong awareness of our own history as technologists, things that have been done well, things that have been not implemented well, that lack that human empathy. And some of us even have in living memory things that have happened with social media and other forms of technology where the right empathy in the room and the right knowledge of potential effects of technology would have led to better products. And so I think everybody's in this business to do some good, and having that energy to adopt and learn the technology, but also help steer the product direction in a positive direction, I think is one of the missions ahead of us. Sorry to interject that, but I thought what you said was really inspiring, and I wanted to kind of join you in that. So are we ready to close the poll? We still have a couple people coming in.
Yes.
Okay.
We still have a few folks, but I mean, last call, you get a few seconds extra, and I want to read some of the questions from the audience, at least a few chunks. The biggest chunk that people wanted to ask, and I want to talk about that first because everybody was going after biases and utilizing kind of fail safes for checking on biases. In our last event, we actually talk about biases and how easy it is to just fall into them. So are there any recommendations, limitations, fail safes, just to say, rely on AI, but be cautious when you utilize it? And these are the guidelines to not just fall into the trap of relying too much on a machine.
You know, Matt, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think
Yes, go Matt, because many of them were directed at you. Like, how do you check for biases in the results? Should AI be transparent about the limitations? Is this causing an echo chamber effect when you're
Yeah.
talking about real personas?
Well, it's fascinating because as we've built this tool that we've been learning on, like we have changed models as we've gone up. I mean, we started with GPT 3.5 Turbo, and now we're up to O1 Mini. Every one of those models had its own biases and weights. You can imagine the neural nets had their own weights. So each one, every time we update, everything kind of not everything, most of the things go out the window. So that's why I say we've been experimenting with trying to give them instruction, trying to teach them to say when they don't know something, or if they are being, if we don't want to lead the witness, for example,
Yeah.
we don't want them to, repeat the same things, or way too heavily, because if they've got a dog, that we don't want them to mention their dog in every response. We want them, to give us some more insight. So it's it is an evolving learning process, but, we're trying our best to at least be alerted when things are going in that direction and instructing them. It gets tricky when they start to kind of get a little bit more advanced and, could potentially route themselves around any instruction they get, so it gets really fun then. But
when do you notice that, like, they're going a little bit like around the path and getting more advanced at what you really want them to do?
what was that?
No, how do you notice, like, maybe when your personas are a little bit like going left instead of staying in path, like, or that's something that is allowed?
Yeah, so right now, you're kind of, the base guardrails are what the actual models you build on are. So whatever they implement. So if you use Claude AI's API, they've got different sets of guardrails from the foundation, even in how it replies. So kind of hot swapping out models, isn't really easy because you have to build an entire system prompt in the background around just how that particular model is biased on its own, let alone how you configure your persona itself to sorry, I got a little karate girl behind me. Sorry.
Life happens. That's great. So no, and one of the things that I've seen in so many businesses done time and time again is the use of archetypes instead of true personas. You go do secondary research, you try to pretend to learn a lot of things about your users, your customers, and then you go back and produce what is more like an archetype than an actual persona. What I see this as a relief, it's at least you can add sources from your own research to categorize and create a persona that comes out of real transcripts, that comes out of real backgrounds. So there was other questions about how to accelerate artifacts, and I'll say how to accelerate learnings from business stakeholders. And I think the evolution of certain artifacts using AI definitely can be one of those potential answers. But I want to direct this question to you, Maxim. Like, you show us also like this very rich artifact coming out of Figma Jam. And you talk about the importance of creating this topology to really categorize things. So what design process and artifacts do you believe this is going to be the most impactful for? Like, do you see like the North moving in certain direction here? Maybe you see I don't know, the hierarchy, the information architecture now being redefined by information architecture. Sorry, by artificial intelligence. Too many AI.
Yeah. So I'll be getting back to survey again and again, guys. You shared a lot of insights. Maybe we'll create some kind of an article out of it. But as for design itself, it wasn't really useful. So even Wizard that I mentioned, right? That probably one of the most popular tools that generate prototypes out of the findings. It's really high level things. So you can do it as a wow effect after talking with the client, and in 15 minutes just show the first prototype. But it will be really high level. As for building like things like information architecture, it does it pretty well. So everything that's on, let's say, business analyst part, any UX architecture related exercises does pretty well. The main thing is that you should you should probably give it smaller chunks of information, because the more information you give, the more it starts glitching, and there is a strategy to keep one chat for. So you start your project, you start like entering all the data there, and then it's super heavy, and it at some point of time it just give you really high level answers, and at some point of time you ask really specific things, and it for some reason give you an answer for the things that you asked a month ago. So I would suggest to get more accurate answers. Just validation is the key. Validation is the key. You receive an answer, you go and just create a new chat real quick and enter the same question, add a bit more context, but yeah, without all the history that it has, and just check if it's still valid. That's one thing. Second thing is, while it gives you any kind of, especially for insights, just ask, can you please show me what are the sources of those insights? Can you please show me the exact place where you found it? So that's also the part of validation, and it will show you, and you'll can define if it's actual, if it's trend or not, or it's still glitching. So yeah, the short answer that everything that is related to the UX research itself, almost all exercises could be easily done with AI. When you go to prototyping and a UI stage, no, it just doesn't work there.
That is really, like, it resonates with me for sure. And Jake and I, we actually jumped into a recording some content for all of you guys of how to prompt like a master, because there is like this refinement in how you prompt the different models, and you have to understand how to do it correctly. And it's not just intuitive. You can provide very specific constraints, like building your hypotheses, and ask that the model search for those themes and invalidation for, and also find others. Like, there is opportunity for creativity, which is one of some of the other questions. But Jake, if you want to add something, I know that this is something that is close to home for you.
Yeah, the thing I'll mention, especially for those who are really interested in this topic, we're going to be developing some basic guidelines and some worked examples of how to apply prompt engineering with publicly available AI, so like ChatGPT and Claude, to do UX research. And so, like, how to build a debriefing, like to do a debriefing guide using ChatGPT. And so the point there is to kind of help with building comprehension around how you build context. That's so much of the success. That so much of the success in working with AI is in building context, refining context. It's a conversation. It's not a search engine. So look for that actually in one of the next upcoming pre-records.
And one thing, if I may add to this, so what we found very, very valuable is to prove the concepts using specifically different models. So if you have Llama, if you have access to Llama, if you have access to ChatGPT, to Claude AI, try all of them. And sometimes it's so helpful for you to understand what is really going on a back end, and you can actually find those biases when you're comparing results from one to another.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's almost like getting a consensus and then also getting a bit of insight into how the LLMs are interpreting what you're doing.
Yeah, it's like Matt's personas talking to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have one more question towards personas. I think that captivated the audience. They want to know about your data accuracy. They want to know about how you validate things, like when do you decide to talk to real users versus using virtual users, validation, and quality. Like, what are your methods to ensure the data that you're feeding to your personas is like decent enough and not just ChatGPT feeding ChatGPT or model feeding model?
Right. Yeah. It's and you hear about this in the enterprise world. It's like your moat is kind of your unique data, your proprietary data. And so that kind of applies here. Like you want to kind of apply as much, kind of data that the models had no access to train on. You want to give them as much unique data like that. And so, for example, like the one Dr. Lewis Grant persona we had, like we, gave him like a profile, gave him general demographics, high level, a little bit of backstory, but then we gave him information about Google Analytics, like a summary of, raw output of just what Google Analytics a report from that month was. And so that's something that none of the models have access to because it just came out, they just went and ran a report and spit it in there. So I'd say feeding as much of that type of data that you only have access to and the models don't can help sharpen them in ways that no one else will be able to, and so that helps a lot. And I think probably the biggest.
No, and that is totally true. There is this report that I read, that CV Insights, and one of the predictions among many other industries that are just growing, like refrigeration industry, how to keep those servers cooler with the increase of requests. There's also this higher value to original content, even in things like you will never consider like Instructables or Yelp reviews, because there's going to be scarcity of original content. And yes, that's probably when creativity and originality is going to shine the most. And we're going to be inundated by a lot of, just generic stuff. But yeah, that is so true. Your content, your original data, that's going to be gold. For sure.
Well, and one thing I'll leave you all with is, we talk about this, at the office, is like, we're humans making things for other humans. We're not letting robots make things for humans. Like robots can make things for robots. That's great. But in the end, something has to empathize. It has to be something that resonates with another human. So I think that layer has to always be there on some level. So that's
true. And if I can add to, for example, for our tool, that self-evaluation tool, it's AI. It makes mistakes. It hallucinates time to time. That's no doubt. But when you look at the growth, because we do have this tool for quite some time now, and you see how I literally have a feedback from teams when saying, "Oh, we did talk about this 6 months ago, and now the AI shows us this." So this validates that AI actually can provide some value, but knowing that there's actual human feedback is very important.
Yes. So true. Any other closing remarks? Max, do you want to share something with the audience before we say goodbyes?
I see people still discussing prompt engineering, and the designers will be some kind of a QAs for AI generated interfaces. So I'm not sure if it's 100% correct. It's just it's transforming. It's transforming. Maybe the main task would be to be the, I don't know, the to define the right UX for the AI itself. So it's not you're making the new prompt. It's you're defining how UI will guide someone through the right process, right? And still, it can generate, as I said, pretty cool interfaces. Yet that's why you'll be just setting the right expectation for AI to build the right thing, and you'll be validating it, yes, but you'll be still creating it as well. And the creativity is still the main thing, even with Mid-Journey, yes, it's beautiful. It's amazing how it creates all the art, but you can always see that it's artificial, right? So that's the main thing.
Any other
Awesome.
closing remarks? Oh, go ahead, Carl.
No. Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, any other closing remarks, or it looks like we're at a wrap. Okay, so I first, as they've all said, this is a moving target. Things are changing so quickly. This conversation is not over. I really anticipate that a year from now, we're going to be talking about not just what's going on in AI, but just how things are changing, how quickly they're changing, and how they're affecting the work that we're doing for the products that we're making and the work and how we do our work. So I expect to come back to this in 2025. And so I encourage everyone in the group to stay tuned, keep yourself connected with this work. We'll be posting this on YouTube probably in a couple of weeks, definitely before the end of the year. And let us know what you think about this topic. I mean, it's not the only thing we're covering, but it is taking a lot of focus right now. I do want to thank Pavel, Max, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your presentation. It was great meeting you and seeing this work. I know it's something that you put a lot of work into, and I also know that it's something that you clearly are passionate about. So I look forward to hearing more from you, and I hope from our community standpoint as well. Other than that, that's a wrap. Thank you again so much for joining us. I look forward to connecting with folks online about this. Meet us in Slack. You've got the link. If not, reach out. Let us know. We'll add you to our Slack channel, and we'll be talking more online. With that, we'll wrap the session. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening wherever you are, and look forward to seeing you next time.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
You all.
Happy
Thank you,
holidays.
everyone.
Happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays.
Happy holidays.